Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. This is your host, Jorge Martin. We're going SoCal, Familia. We're going SoCal for the NFL Insider Series, talking Chargers. Yes. And coming on, you know what? He's a compa, always a compa, in so many different ways. I mean, Fernando Ramirez. He's covered the Chargers for many years. He currently covers them for the Sporting Tribune. So I'm going to bring him in. So, what's up, Fernando? I couldn't hit that high note.
No, dude. The other day I noticed that I hadn't done it in a while, and I tried, and it was really rusty. But Gilbert didn't catch it. And the next time it was good to go. So right now we've kind of taken a break with everything, but I'm hoping that when I come back, I'm able to hit that high note. But I appreciate you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I couldn't steal what's up, bro. So I had to do
You're all good. You're
Fernando.
All good.
So mi amigo, whole new regime. You know what, I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah, and he pointed out that the players got certificates at the end.
Oh, you listened to the Rich Eisen interview?
Yeah.
Did
you get a gift certificate for finishing?
No, I don't think media did, but I saw that too, and I found it interesting. But it's like DJ said, that's just Jim being Jim. I mean, those certificates are so like they're just whatever's, but it's showing. Wow, what a game! But it's just showing exactly what Jim Harbaugh is all about. He's quirky, he's nerdy, he's different, and I think that kind of fits what this team is. I mean, I remember going into the draft process, everybody's like, "Well, Justin Herbert's an introvert, or he's this, or he's that." And boom, he ends up being one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. There's no question of his leadership. It's so funny how people outside of a locker room question the leadership of somebody, but then you talk to the people inside, and you even talk to some people that, I mean, you just never know what they're going to say. And everybody comes up with the same thing, is that Justin Herbert is the leader. And then you get Derwin James dropped in the draft. Some people have questioned if he's still one of the top safeties in the NFL. Jesse Minter said, look, I'm here to help that guy shine again and to remind everybody who he is. So it's just you have Khalil Mack, who says, I want to win. You got Joey Bosa, who says, I want to win. So you just have a bunch of different personalities, and it kind of feels like now the sun isn't the center of the universe. It's Jim Harbaugh when it comes to the Chargers. And it feels like all those different all those four leaders that I mentioned, it seems like they all fit exactly what Jim Harbaugh is. So I think it's a great mixture for them. And yeah, a little quirkiness and dorkiness is kind of what you expect from Jim Harbaugh, to be honest.
Oh man. Hey, Familia, also want to make sure, if you're not already, you should be, but make sure you're following the Compas on the Beat and all of the great stuff. The What's Up Bolts show, which Fernando and Dan and Dago, who's inspiring the next section of this, and also House of Horns. Just great insight. They give boots on the ground on those teams, as well as bringing on fantastic guests, and they also talk enough mixed martial arts, wrestling, and movies, all the fun stuff, avocados, even. So
I don't know. Gilbert's not a big fan of them, so
that's all right. You and I will make up for it with all of them. But there's been a lot of intrigue about our next player that we're going to be talking about, because I'm not buying the fact that the Chargers are going to take this back to 1977 and just run the ball, 80% of the time and just do that. The son of Odin, tribute to Dan and Dago, Justin Herbert is, Jim Harbaugh came here because of him, right? And so I want you to kind of give me an idea how the pass game is gonna evolve to the next iteration in this offense. His third offensive coordinator in 3 years, in fact.
Yeah, no, and even going back to college. In college, he had four offensive coordinators in his 4 years at Oregon. So, and it's funny because going back to what you just mentioned, Justin is a unique guy, and it's basically like he's learned all these different offenses, different elements of it, and you're kind of and offensive coordinator Greg Roman said, I have to think that he is what's the people that don't like, they can see it on the board and photographic memory. Thank you. And we asked Justin, we're like, do you have photographic memory? He's like, no. He's like, I wish I did. It would make things a lot easier. He's like, no, it's just understanding the different ways that offenses are run. And because he succeeded under Shane Steichen, he succeeded under Joe Lombardi. And even though there was a lot of questionable things that Kellen Moore did, and Joe Lombardi had a lot of questionable things too, but just recency bias, Kellen Moore did a lot of questionable things, and Justin succeeded even in that offense. And I guess I'm also in agreement with you. Like, I think they're going to run the football, but at the same time, Jim Harbaugh's never had a quarterback like this. And right. you can look back at maybe Andrew Luck, but that was at Stanford. This is in the NFL. Like Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick, they're and I'm not trying to downplay either one of them, but they're not as good as what Justin Herbert is. So I think and Greg Roman said it, that they're going to try and fit everything to kind of fit what Justin does. And Justin said, I'm going to fit whatever they want to do. He's like, selfishly, I want to throw the football 100 times in a game. He's like, but if our best thing to win is me sacrificing that and us running the football, I'm going to take it. This is the thing about him. And I know a lot of quarterbacks have egos. We know Tom Brady has an ego. The beloved Patrick Mahomes, he has an ego. Quarterbacks have an ego. And I'm sure Justin has a little bit of it, but he's really selfless in the fact that he said, I just want to win. That's all. And that's the thing. He hasn't experienced winning. The one season that they did win, they go into the playoffs, and then they crapped the bed against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's not what Justin Herbert wants to do. And I'm sure Dean Spanos, John Spanos, the whole Spanos family was sick and tired of losing. And that's why you go out and spend the big money to go get a head coach that can do that. So yeah, I agree with you, Jorge. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be mix and matching. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 50-50, 51-49, leaning more towards the running the football. But then Austin Eckler on K Adams said they told me that they wanted somebody that could run the football 300 times, and that's just not my game. So yeah, there's going to be running of the football, but I think it's going to be pick and choosing, seeing what ways to kind of scheme around it. But I definitely think that it's going to be a little bit more even than what people think. I think Jim is going to style his offense to really fit what his quarterback can do, and what his quarterback can do is sling that rock all around and find ways to win.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, I mean, the Chargers have a long way to go defensively. Oh, yeah. I think. And so I don't think they're going to be a lockdown defense where they can run where they could just be running the ball, So I think there's going to be some shootouts for Herbert, like maybe not like the Detroit game, but there's going to be, I mean, he's got to face Mahomes twice a year. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and I think, okay, don't misinterpret what I'm about to say, but I don't think the Chiefs are that team anymore that's what's so fascinating about them, is that in the past, they could just score 40 points automatically when they had Tyreek Hill, a younger Travis Kelce. That's not what they do anymore. They grind it out with their run game. Their defense, that's a lockdown. That's a defense that really will suffocate teams. And that's the thing that I'm sure the Chargers are going to try and do. But like you said, the defense is just not there. They have a ways to go with numerous positions. I mean, their strongest position there is the pass rush, and then there's kind of a drop off everywhere else after the pass rush. And I mean, they have 4 very solid pass rushers, and I think that's the way they're going to try and beat teams, is with their pass rush. But like you said, I think the defense is. I think this year they focus a little bit more on the offense. I think next year they'll focus a little bit more on the defense, because my biggest question mark about them is their secondary. If I'm completely honest, because you have a young Cam Hart, you have a rookie Cam Hart, you have a Asante Samuel Jr., where it's like you see some positives, you see some negatives, and it's kind of like, so who is he? Is he his father, or what is he? So, and I mean, obviously that's unfair to compare him to who his father was, because they're different styles. I mean, sometimes you do see a lot of similarities, but there's just a lot of question marks I have about the secondary, to say the least.
Well, I want the guys he's going to be throwing to. So I want you to please help me make some sense how it's going to go. I mean, there's so much narratives around Ladd McConkey. I was on record in saying that I wish they would have taking Malik Neighbors. I wanted to see them take Malik Neighbors, though it's hard to when you get an offensive lineman like Alt, but we'll get into that. But McConkey, Quentin Johnston obviously had a rough year, and Josh Palmer. Could those be the top receivers? Can you give me a little on both? Because I specifically, before you get into Johnston, I want to ask you a quick question. So.
Yeah, no, of course. So the thing about Josh Palmer, and I'm going to start with Josh Palmer just because he's interesting, just because of the simple fact that when Keenan or Mike have gone down, he has stepped up, but he's had his own injury issues. So, and the one thing that I think people are really excited about Harbaugh is that last year, I think Michigan only had 1 or 2 players that were injured and lost for the season. So everybody is really believing that they could be healthy this year. And I mean, health is going to be key for this receiver position. Because I mean, you're mentioning those 3 receivers there, but after those 3 receivers, there's a little bit of a drop off. I mean, I'll throw DJ Chark in there because I think DJ Chark is going to be a positive weapon. He was with Sanjay Lal, the wide receivers coach, when they were in Jacksonville during that horrible year with Urban Meyer. But he got to play under him, and DJ's looked actually very impressive. And I mean, it's only mini camp and OTAs and everything, but he's diving for passes. He's he looks like he in his mind, he believes that he's at the bottom of this and that he needs to earn his roster spot. And that's actually pretty impressive because, I mean, there's some guys that are veterans that you would probably come in and be like, oh, I got this. I mean, they wanted me this, that, but no, it's tough. So DJ Chark, I throw in there. I think he's going to be solid. I think he's going to be that intermediate passer guy that's going to be able to do a lot of different things. Again, there's no Keenan Allen. There's no Mike Williams on this team. Right. So it is going to look completely different. What they've also done, and this is only, again, during minicamp and OTAs, they've used Darius Davis the way that a lot of Charger fans were hoping they did. Last year, they used him at times in different ways, but it wasn't as consistently as people, I think, would have hoped. So far, they have used him at different spots, and there was one where they put him at running back. They faked the handoff to him. He did a wheel route. There was nobody around him, and he caught the pass about 30 yards down the field, and he walked into the end zone. And you're like, oh, wow, maybe this is a different wrinkle. But like I said, Josh Palmer had a solid game last year against the Chiefs. He's the guy that they're going to really be looking at. Ladd McConkey, man, that kid's pretty impressive, and I'll tell you why. He's a guy that could find cushions, and like he'll find the weakness in the defense. He'll sit there, he'll catch the ball, and then he turns upfield. And I know everybody, for the life of me, I don't know why they were doing this, but everybody's like, oh, he's like Cooper Kupp. And it's like, no, only their skin tone is the only thing that's similar to Cooper Kupp. Like, they're not similar in their game. Ladd McConkey's really fast. Like, there were times where he would catch a ball, he would turn around, he'd head upfield. Again, they're not in pads, but still, you're like, oh, wow, look at his speed. And one thing that really stood out to me, and again, it's about Herbert's leadership and how I think he's grown in the last few years. Ladd McConkey in one of those, they were just doing end zone drills. And I think Ladd was supposed to do in and out, and then catch the ball, and then obviously walk into the end zone. Ladd slipped, and Herbert obviously overthrew him. And then Ladd was going to like the back of the line, and Herbert goes, no, come on, let's do it again, man. Don't worry about it. It happens to the best of us. Get back over there. Let's do this again. And then Ladd's like, oh, okay. And then Ladd does it, and then Herbert goes, there you go, bud. Come on, let's do it. And so that was great to see from Herbert, especially, like I said, because that's a young player who's going to need some of that positive reinforcement. Because let's be honest, like, yes, Jim Harbaugh is here, but there's going to be tough times this year. There are going to be some struggles. There is going to be a deficiency getting from college to the NFL. So there's going to be learning curves. And it's good to see that that Herbert is helping out a young receiver. But all right, your question about Quentin Johnston, and I'll go to him. Did you were going to ask me something about Quentin Johnston, right? Oh, sorry.
I remember last year, something that really stuck with me, that you relayed something from Keenan Allen, that Quentin Johnston was, talented. And, but, that talent is there. It obviously, drops were an issue last year. Is that talent showing up this year early on, that because maybe confidence was an issue or something like that? I mean,
I think it was a little bit of everything. See, this is another knock I have on Kellen Moore. What hurt Quentin last year was Mike Williams going down with the torn ACL. That was the hard that him going down. Kellen thought, or I don't know if it was Kellen, I don't know if it was Brandon, but they just decided to throw him in there into Mike's receiving spot. Quentin's not a guy that's going to go jump the ball, go up, climb a ladder and come down with the ball. He's not that kind of receiver. He uses his speed to go down the field, to do drag routes and all that stuff. And that's what, and that's kind of what Jim Harbaugh and his coaches have been saying. I mean, again, Sanjay Lal, the receivers coach, he did a lot of study on Quentin Johnston because last year he was with Seattle, and Seattle had the
that's right,
20th overall pick, and they went with Jackson Smith and Jingba. And then you have Joe Ortiz, who said, I did a lot of work on Quentin Johnston. Why? Because he was with Baltimore, and Baltimore had the 23rd pick last year. So now you have two people that have kind of seen what Quentin Johnston can be. So what does that mean? That means that now here, I think the Chargers are going to do things to get Quentin the ball in open space and have him be able to use his tools to help this team. Again, I think this position is going to be, and like you said, confidence.
Right.
Quentin said that was a big part of it, and that now he feels really confident. He's like, I haven't gotten down on myself. And the good part about it last year was that Quentin didn't get down on himself, and he said, I never was in my locker thinking, I don't think I can do this. And I mean, it could happen. You could have a young player like that could be like, maybe I'm not this good. Quentin said he never went through anything like that, which is good for him. But now it's about putting him in a position to succeed. And it seems like Sanjay Lal, Greg Roman, and Jim Harbaugh are on the same page and on the same page about what they can do with Quentin Johnston. So, Jorge, if I can be completely honest, I think what they're going to do is it's going to be a mixture of receivers. Like, there's not going to be a Keenan Allen and a Mike Williams every single play on the field. Here, I think it's going to be a mixture. Like, sometimes you might see Ladd McConkey, two tight ends, and maybe DJ Chark, or you might see Darius Davis and I don't know, Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer. So I just think they're going to mix and match a lot, and I think there's going to be a lot of different formations. I don't think you're going to see a true designated number one receiver on the field at all times. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of the way my impressions are so far. But yeah, that's kind of what I think about the whole wide receiver position and the way they're going to do it. Because I don't believe any of these guys that are tweeting out, or you've seen some of those clickbait stories where they're like, oh, the Chargers could trade for Brandon Ayuk, or they could go get T. Higgins. And I'm like, why would Jim Harbaugh get rid of Keenan Allen and not pay him to go pay T. Higgins or to go pay Brandon Ayuk? That's just not happening. They're not going to pay a receiver $30 million when they get to do one thing, when they can have 5 or 6 different receivers that all do different things. So that's kind of the MO, in my opinion, of what this Harbaugh team is going to be led. They're not going to pay receivers. They'll pay their offensive line, their defensive line, probably their secondary, and their quarterback, obviously, but they're not going to pay wide receivers. And that's just that's kind of the way I see this kind of going now. I think receivers are not going to it's not going to be what it has been in the past. I think we're starting to kind of hit that cap a little bit when it comes to receivers.
Can you see kind of like a pecking order, or is it still really
for
like
these
the targets? Yeah, for targets.
Yeah, I would. Dang,
I know it's a muddy picture.
No. Well, I might go Ladd McConkey 1.
That's what I want to do. Yeah,
and Josh Palmer 2, DJ Chark 3, and Quentin Johnston 4. But it's not in the way that, like, I hope people don't take that the wrong way. That doesn't mean that Quentin Johnston's the worst receiver on this list or whatever. I just think that they're all going to do a lot of different things, but I think Ladd is going to be the guy that really makes a lot of impact in this offense. Just of the ways I've seen them use him, I think he's going to be the one that kind of sees the most touches on this team. And Darius Davis, for some reason, I feel like he could see a lot of touches and maybe even touchdowns. Not just on the offensive side, but special teams. There was and I know we're talking about a receiver. Well, he's a receiver and a returner, but Tuli Tuipulotu was telling us the other day, because I asked him about the rule changes with the onside with the new kickoff rules. He's like, There was one of those today because it was I think it was the last OTA's practice or second to last. He's like, man, there was a time today where I was about to engage my guy and I see 12 just running right past me. And I'm like, wait, was that Darius Davis? He's like, so those new kickoff rules kind of work in the Chargers' favor, especially because last year everybody saw what Darius Davis could do. Now with these new kickoff rules, he may be able to do a lot more, especially because they kept Ryan Fiken as their special teams coach, and there's a familiarity there. So I definitely see them being able to exploit that and use Darius Davis in multiple ways.
Oh, awesome. Well, can you? I asked you to add clarity to one. Now, can you help me add clarity to the running back room? You mentioned what Austin Eckler said about one guy. I don't know I don't think we're expecting Gus Edwards to take a Derrick Henry role, but you got Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins coming off an Achilles, which is after the ACL, which two really, really horrible. And then Kimani Vidal, who's not Latino, even though we want to claim him. But can you kind of break down how the carries are going to go and if either could be a threat in the passing game?
I think Isaiah Spiller also might be in the mix there. They've been using him multiple times as well. So that's been pretty interesting. And Isaiah Spiller's a guy that everybody was really excited about when they drafted him. It just seemed like they weren't able to develop him. And hey, here goes a guy and an offensive coordinator that loves running backs. So I definitely, the way I kind of see this is that it's a 1-2 punch with a rabbit punch. And I think Vidal's going to be the rabbit punch. Mm-hmm. The heavy hitters to me are going to be Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. I'll tell you one thing. And I mean, I've looked at J.K. Dobbins and he looks like he's in incredible shape, phenomenal shape.
Wow.
So I think J.K. might be their home run hitter if I'm being honest. Like,
wow.
And I never got to see him in Baltimore. Obviously, I wasn't there in Baltimore, but just the way he's looked in practice so far, and again, T-shirts, but he just has looked very impressive, and I've been very impressed with what he's done, and he just reminds me of the guy that you saw at Ohio State, the guy that you kind of saw multiple times with the Baltimore Ravens, where you knew he was a danger, and he said, look, the injury history, I'm done with that. It's a new chapter. I'm a Charger. I'm excited for this. Gus Edwards is another guy, like I said, that he's a guy, 11 touchdowns last year. I mean, that could really help you in the red zone. He's that tough runner. So I think you kind of have that smash and dash kind of thing where, and again, JK is a physical guy as well. Don't get that mixed up. But I really think that the nitty gritty is going to be Gus Edwards and the home run hits and everything could be JK and Vidal just adds something else to that. I mean, he feels like he was kind of a steal for them in that 6th round. He feels like a guy that could really make an impact in this running back room. But I definitely think it's Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and then Vidal. But don't mistake in it. I think what's his name? I think Isaiah Spiller may have something to say about possibly making this team as well. So I definitely think he looks a lot better than he has in the past. I'll just say that.
Oh wow! Well, I think this is 4th year. I think it's his.
When it comes to catching, they've been working on it with all of them. So it feels like all of them are going to be, there's not going to be one Austin Eckler or anything. It's going to be, hey, if you can run it, you're going to need to be able to catch it. So that's kind of the early impressions I've gotten from that as well.
Awesome. Anybody from the tight end room that to keep an eye on? I mean, it's a lot, not a lot that you don't think a lot of volume.
Well, no. And they haven't really, Will Dissly, I have seen catch a couple passes, but they kind of both been in and out of the Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst have kind of been in and out, but Hayden Hurst is the one that they've been doing seam routes with, and he looks like those might be open. Everybody's going to be so focused on everybody else, and they're gonna kind of be like, I don't know they're blocking tight ends, yes, but I definitely think that they could be a lot better this season. I don't know what it is, but I think they're going to be better than what people expect. I know everybody's like, oh, they're just there to block. No, I think they're going to mix and match these tight ends. If I'm being completely honest, a guy to look at is Zach Hines from South Dakota State. He's an undrafted rookie, 6'7". I watched a couple of practices with him, and there was a day where Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst did not practice, and Herbert was going to him a lot. He's 6'7", kind of a bigger. He's faster. I mean, obviously, again, t-shirts, but I definitely think he might be able to make this roster. Donald Parham has kind of been a guy that he did well at the beginning, but lately he just hasn't been able to stay on the field consistently. I really think that it's going to be 3 tight ends, obviously, but I just wonder who that third tight end is going to be, because I think Hayden and Will Dissly are both going to make the team, but I wonder who that third tight end, and again, Zach might be one of those guys that that could make it. But a name that I'm looking at is Colston Loveland.
Oh, yes.
From Michigan. I mean, see,
who's going to drink the Kool-Aid more than him?
I know. I think Herbert would love a tight end like that. He's not going to come out and say, oh, I want. But next year's draft, I'm telling that kid's a first-round talent, I think. I think he's a really good tight end. I wouldn't doubt it. If another Michigan guy, bring him in, I wouldn't doubt. I mean, and obviously the Chargers need help in the secondary, linebacker, defensive line, but I wouldn't sleep on them. And I know we're already talking about the 2025 draft when the season hasn't even come out, but like you asked me about tight ends, Colston is he might be a guy that the Chargers might look at next. And I would love it, because there was when was it? Herbert's second year when he threw for like 40 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He went to the Pro Bowl and all he was throwing to was Mark Andrews. And his rookie year, he loved Hunter Henry. And it's kind of like, dude, give this guy a tight end. Like, that's why a lot of people thought last year they were going to go Michael Mayer, because they thought, oh, you know what? Right. Notre Dame kid, Tom Telesco likes those Notre Dame guys. They'll probably go tight end. They didn't end up going tight end. This year, I thought they might go tight end also. I thought Brock Bowers. I didn't think Brock Bowers at 5, but I thought they would drop back and maybe get Brock Bowers that way. But no Brock Bowers. So it's definitely interesting to see kind of how this dynamic. I mean, I from the beginning thought Harbaugh was going to go Joe Alt, and Jorge, I'm going to tell you why. We all remember 3 years ago the Cincinnati Bengals had a decision to make.
Yes.
Will they go Penei Sewell or will they go Jamar Chase? They decided to go Jamar Chase. Not a bad option. What happened in the Super Bowl that year? Jamar Chase was open down the field on that final play.
Yep. Aaron Donald half a second.
Aaron Donald was in this guy's grill, sacking him for the game-winning sack. So who knows? Maybe for the Chargers, this was better. I know a lot of I'm telling you. So Gilbert, Vic, the producer, and Dan and Dago were all on a live. Well, no, actually, at first it was Gilbert and Vic, and then I jumped in right before the Chargers pick. I jumped out. And I didn't know they were still on the live stream. We talked to Joe. We talked to Jim. We talked to Joe Ortiz also. And then I'm like, are you guys still on? They're like, yeah, come back in. And I come back in and people are pissed about the pick. I'm like, people were really that, man. Then I went on Twitter and people were mad. And I'm like, you guys understand that this is what you wanted. This franchise has been a failure for 60 effing years. They haven't won anything. You've thirsted for a coach since Marty Schottenheimer to have the balls to say, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. And a guy with the pedigree of Jim Harbaugh and his first draft. Well, that was the second time they got pissed at him. The first one was when he traded Keenan Allen away. This was the next time. And it's like, dude, you have to be able to take and let him cook. So that's what Charger fans needed to realize. And people were mad. And I'm like, I go back to that Cincinnati Bengals decision. That's what I kind of go back to. And that's why when people get frustrated, and I know Malik Neighbors is a talent. Hell, you saw it from his press conference. He did not look happy about going to New York. And that's crazy because obviously New York is New York, but he knows. And he was on social media. He was like, I want to be like, he was saying, I'd love to be a Charger. I'd love to be a Charger. We get it.
Daniel Jones, Justin Herbert.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not apples and oranges, but I think people need to be patient with this, and that's what I'm going to preach and that's what I've been preaching to Charger fans on What's Up Bolts, on Compas on the Beat. People need to be patient. This is going to be a 2-year project. They have a lot of work to do. I know a lot of people want to say Tom Telesco was a great GM. He picks, he does this, he does that. This roster was a lot more depleted than I think people were willing to admit. Tom is great at drafting in the first round, but then there's kind of a bunch of question marks after that. So I think people need to be patient. I do think the Chargers, I wrote it, I've said it, 10 wins this year, and I do have them making the playoffs. But I think people need to bring back their expectations a little bit because, look, the next 3 Super Bowls are very interesting, the locations. Why is that, Jorge? Because this year it's in New Orleans. That's where Jim Harbaugh lost the Super Bowl against his brother. Next year it's in San Francisco, where Jim Harbaugh coached. The year after that, it's in Los Angeles, where the Chargers play. So, I mean, if you don't win a Super Bowl now, you're never going to do it with this head coach. So it's going to be interesting. But you know me, Jorge. I'm a WWE guy, so I love storylines. That storyline really intrigues me with the 3 locations of the next Super Bowl and what they mean to Jim Harbaugh. So, very interesting to say the least. But I really think he's going to build something unique here. I just think people need to be patient with it. And again, he's never had a quarterback like this to really be able to use the full amount of his talent. I'm interested to see how this is all going to look. And man, it's definitely going to be interesting to cover this team because, again, and Brandon was phenomenal with us. Going back to Anthony Lynn was incredible with us.
Yeah.
Mike McCoy was a little hit and miss. And that's since I've been here. He was a little hit and miss, but just with Jim, he's just a different he's a different beast, to be honest. He's going to be completely different. So I'm definitely interested to see it kind of how this first season goes for them. But I think people should be excited. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's back in the NFL, and heck, right off the bat, you get Jim against Andy Reid. You get Jim against John. You get a lot of different. You get Jim and Sean Payton. Like, there's a lot of really good matchups where you get to see him go up against really good head coaches. And again, and sorry to kind of go on a rant, but when Jim first came in, and you know what's funny? Alex Smith said it, I think, on ESPN. He said, "I should hate that guy. I should hate Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh gave my job to Colin Kaepernick, and he traded me to Kansas City. I don't, though. I love that guy. And yeah, you're gonna hate him in moments, but overall you're gonna love him." And he said, and Alex even said, the lockout had happened. I was at the facility throwing, practicing, working out, and Jim had just been hired as the head coach. We're in a lockout. He says, "Hey, let's go outside and throw the football." Oh, okay, cool. And we start throwing it back and forth. And he tells me, "I'm going to make sure that you're re-signed. We're going to keep you. You're not going anywhere. I want you as my quarterback." They kept him. And obviously they won. Remember, they had just fired, can't win with him, can't coach with him, can't do it. Linebacker, Mike Singletary. Thank you, Mike Singletary. They had just fired him. The people didn't think that team was going to be any good. Alex Smith was looking like a bust, and they turned it around. They won 13 games his first year in a lockout year. So again,
and go to the NFC Championship.
Exactly. So there's a lot of really positives, but again, the AFC is very loaded. And I'm telling fans, you have CJ Stroud, you have Joe Burrow, you have Josh Allen, you have Patrick Mahomes. I think after that,
Lamar Jackson.
Then I'll still put Aaron Rodgers in there, and then there's a little bit of a gap when it comes to the rest of the quarterbacks. But definitely this is a very exciting conference, to say the least. I mean, on the NFC, you kind of look at the 2-3 teams. I think in the AFC, there is no such thing as a sure thing. So. And then you have Danger Russ in Pittsburgh, so that'll be interesting. You know, it's funny. I predicted on Compas that Mike Tomlin will have his first losing season this year thanks to Danger Russ. So yeah, but that's it for me. So with my rant, I'm sorry. I'm just preaching patience.
Well, you know what, and I don't think you're talking back to the alt pick. I don't think you can ever go wrong if you invest in the line.
That
I
dude's a
think
mountain. He's like, I saw him and I'm like, holy crap.
Wow.
He's a mountain.
And he's on that side. Rashawn Slater, all pro caliber guy on the other side.
No, and right off the bat, you get Max Crosby. Hello, welcome to the NFL, rookie. Let's see how. And it's funny. And again, I'm not criticizing Max Crosby or anything, but I've seen in the past where Max Crosby will line up. Like he used to line up on the right side because he knew that was the weakest side. And hey, more power to you. I mean, you're smart. And now it's going to be interesting to see. And I'm not saying that Joe Alt is a world beater. He's a rookie. It's gonna take him some time. He's on a new position, but it's gonna be interesting to see Max Crosby right off the bat against Joe Alt. That's definitely gonna be very interesting to see, especially because obviously they have Christian Wilkes, they have Wilkins, they have a lot of different pieces on that defensive line. So I'm actually really interested to see right off the bat how they do against the Raiders and their defensive line, because they're touting it as the best defensive line in all of football. So what a perfect test for Jim Harbaugh and his offensive line.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. You already kind of went into the defense. Anything else you'd want to add about like what to look for on the defense? I think you kind of
Dayon Henley is a guy that I'm really interested to see what he's going to look like. And this Junior Colson is, I mean, that kid he's smart. You know what you're getting from him. Denzel Perryman's kind of a veteran, but he's not a 3-down linebacker. So I think he's going to be 1-2, and then we'll see what happens on 3rd down. But I think Dayon Henley's a name to look out for if I'm for Charger fans out there, because I think Dayon, he was really excited about the Jim Harbaugh hire, and Dayon's played he's played quarterback, receiver, safety. He's played everywhere. And I mean, quarterback and safety, those are the two positions where you have to be very smart and you have to use your instincts to play. So I'm really interested to see how he's going to do. But Dayon Henley's a name I'd keep an eye on. Another one in the secondary, Tony Jefferson, came out of retirement. He was I actually went to high school with him. So we know each other and everything. So that hopefully when we get him on Compas on the Beat, that should be an interesting interview. Gilbert already has like 5 questions to ask him about high school Fernando, but Let's go. Yeah, exactly. But Tony Jefferson is going to be interesting. Why? Because behind Alohi Gilman and Derwin James, there's guys that have been there before, JT Woods, AJ Finley, but there's no dead set, this is the 3rd guy. So Tony, I think, is going to be that guy. Tony Jefferson's a guy that's coming from the Baltimore Ravens. He retired he was with the Giants previously. He retired. He decided to come back, and now he's with the Chargers. He's been with Jesse Minter before. He was his positional coach over in Baltimore. So Derwin James was telling us that he's who he was talking to a lot and trying to pick his brain. Tony was trying out with the Chargers during minicamp, and Derwin said that he would sit with Tony and be like, hey, so what about this? What about that? And that Tony would be like, look, the way he's trying to run this is he wants you to do X, Y, and Z. So I think Tony's going to be a very good pickup for these guys, but I want to see what Tony's going to be able to add to this defense. He's a sure tackler. One thing that's underrated about Tony, and you might be able to if he makes the team, I think you'll be able to use this later, but his blitzing is what Tony's really good at. So I think everybody needs to watch out. And then obviously we know Derwin's very good at it as well, but it's going to be interesting to see the blitzing that Tony does. But yeah, that's another guy. And Jim talks about how the defensive line's very good. I'm interested.
Mac and Bosa, yeah.
Puna Ford is going to be a defensive tackle that I'm interested to see how he's added into this mix. There's a lot of youth on the defensive line. They're going to have to teach a lot, but yeah, that's basically the defense. And again, on the 3rd side of the football, I think their special teams is going to be one of the best in the NFL. So
wow,
a Harbaugh recipe is a good to great defense, great offense, and a great special team. So I definitely think the defense, again, I have question marks about. I think they'll be okay. Okay. Offense, I think they'll be good, very good to very good. And then I think on special teams, they're going to be great. So that's kind of the full rundown on that.
Fantastic, compa. Well, hey, let's close it out. What's in your Mexican food rotation right now? Any recent favorite?
I've kind of been on a little bit of a diet. I always like to go on a diet before training camp just because it's a long training camp. And but what have I eaten lately? I don't think I've
Well,
had
corn
any.
tortillas are more healthy than the flour.
Yeah,
Huh?
no. And the flour ones are just so freaking good.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try wheat tortillas pretty soon.
Yeah.
Wheat corn tortillas, because I heard they're a lot less calories. And you know what? I had them last year. I don't know why. Lately I haven't had them, but I'm gonna go buy some more. But yeah, lately Mexican. No, I don't. I haven't had anything like Wowzer or anything like that. So I need to get on.
We have
something.
high standards.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing too. Yeah, so I haven't really had anything. Wow, so I think I'm gonna need to come up with something before training camp starts. So now you gave me something to put on my checklist.
Well, you know what? I was in San Diego recently, and but unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to get out to get a California burrito. You're
You need it
the
from
one. Yeah.
Lolitas, El Indio, or Ortiz's. Either one of those three. Do you know a lot about wrestling here and there?
More
You
80s, 80s,
but you know
80s.
Rey Mysterio.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so his son Dominic is now a wrestler in WWE. Pretty good. I've interviewed him a couple of times, and we were talking about last year. We were talking about taco shops, and we talked about 2 or 3, and that taco shop actually shared on Instagram the video of him. It was Ortiz's taco shop, and Dominic was like, "Oh, I love Ortiz. Like they're so bomb, this, that." And I put it out there, and Ortiz actually saw it, and they tweeted out about it. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, everybody knows that Lolitas, Ortiz's, and El Indio, those are my 3 spots. Again, I'm a San Diegan that doesn't like tacos El Gordo in the United States. I like it in Mexico. Don't like it in the United States. And I think I'm one of the minorities, but if you go down to TJ, you'll see why I like it better down there. I don't like tacos El Gordo here in general, just because I think it's so expensive, man. Like, everything's expensive, but I think it's so overpriced. Like a buddy of mine just recently went. I told him, "Don't go. I'm gonna go." He comes back and he's like, "Dude, I just spent $30 there." I'm like, "What did I tell you, jackass?" Or sorry, kid show.
Está bien.
I'm like, you're gonna spend a lot of money there, and the food's gonna be okay, but you're just not gonna feel like you got a bang for your buck. So, but yeah, again, thank you so much for having me on, and you're the best. And anytime you need me on, I'll jump on.
Oh, gracias. Make sure. Okay, Fernando. Yeah, please plug anything that's coming up.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know yet. Let me check my message. Okay, I haven't received a confirmation yet, but we're hoping we're gonna have a pretty big interview pretty soon with a former soccer star. So,
yes.
yeah, I don't want to reveal the name just in case, because you never know. Some of these things fall apart, but so far he had said yes, so I'm just waiting for confirmation. But we have that. Gilbert and I will be in Vegas this weekend for UFC 303, so make sure you guys check that out. And training camp, we're gonna have you guys all covered for that. We're gonna be there's 5 teams now in Southern California, so Gilbert and I are gonna try and hit all 5 of them, and then hopefully maybe a Cardinals or something else. But we're definitely going to try and be out to multiple different training camps and get you guys some good stuff. So, yeah, no, I appreciate it. And thank you for letting me plug Compas on the Beat. It's definitely it's something cool that Gilbert and I have kind of built. And it's funny. I wasn't even the one that added Dan and Dago. It was Gilbert. Gilbert was the one that was like, hey, like, because Gilbert would talk to my brother all the time. And he's like, your brother's so fascinating. Why don't we add him to the show? And I'm like, all right, like, let's do it. And then obviously Vic, the producer, is one of Gilbert's friends from college. So he's like, oh, let's add. I was like, all right, let's do it too. So yeah, it's a 4-man team, and it's definitely been a lot of fun to be able to do something like that. And I never thought I'd do something like that with my brother. So to do something like that, my brother's my best friend. So to be able to do something like that has been phenomenal. I never in a million years would have thought that it would happen.
How awesome. Well, yeah. You know what? Yeah. Familia, Compas on the Beat. If you haven't subscribed. Thank me later. The guys are fantastic.
Appreciate
it. Also shout out to Beto Duran for giving me that early shout out. That's how I found out about you guys. So shout out Beto. You're the salty tío that we love you for.
Yeah, I saw him in New York for the Ryan Garcia fight, and then I saw him at the presser at the Canelo fight. I saw him as well. So yeah, here whenever he appears, I told him the other day, I'm like, dang, like on Sunday he was at Disneyland, and then on Monday he was at the Brazil Panama game. I'm like, dang, like you're all over the place, and so yeah, he's awesome. So again, Jorge, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, mi amigo. Thank you, compa. Love it. Love it. Also, Familia, just make sure you're following Familia FFB on YouTube. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. More great NFL Insider series coming out. Just keep coming. They're hot. They're electric, like this Charger episode. So, muchas gracias, everybody. Remember, todos somos familia. Salud.